Brothers and sisters, I stand before you today not to soothe your ears with sweet lies, but to stir your soul with bitter truth. I have not come to praise this nation. I have come to expose it. They ask, why do you reject America? They ask with confusion, as if the answer isn't buried in every cotton field, in every lynched tree, in every bullet-riddled body lying cold on the pavement. They ask, but they already know, they just don't want to hear it. I reject America not out of hatred, but out of memory. Memory of shackles and slave ships. Memory of chains on black wrists and muzzles on black mouths. I reject a system that was built on our backs and yet breaks our spirits every time we rise. I reject the lie. The lie that says we are free because we can vote, while our children are murdered by the very hands we fund through our taxes. I reject the illusion of progress when the police badge still shines brighter than black skin in the courtroom. I reject your parades and your pledges and your pretty words about liberty and justice because they do not apply to me, and they never have. I reject America because America rejected me first. Not just me, but every man and woman who looks like me, talks like me, walks like me, dreams like me. Rejected us in the classroom, in the courtroom, at the ballot box, at the lunch counter, at the hospital, at the job interview, at the border, in the prison, in the graveyard. You want to know the real reason I reject America? Because America has never accepted truth. Because when we speak of justice, they call it revenge. When we ask for dignity, they call it aggression. When we demand equality, they call it terrorism. I reject America not because of some passing grievance or fleeting disappointment, but because of a deep, unbroken history of injustice that stretches from the very founding of this nation to the present day. This rejection is not born out of ignorance or bitterness. It is born out of memory, of experience, of a truth that this country refuses to confront. The story of this land is soaked in the blood of those who built it without payment, recognition, or freedom. It is the legacy of stolen bodies, stolen names, stolen cultures, and stolen lives. It is a legacy that continues to haunt every black child born into a system that sees them as a threat before it sees them as a person. This country was not made for us. It was made on us. The foundation of American wealth was laid with black hands, picking cotton, harvesting sugar, laying railroads, nursing white babies while their own children went hungry. Every brick of every institution was cemented with our suffering. Our labor fed the economy, but we were denied a seat at the table. They wrote laws to define us as less than human. They drew up constitutions that spoke of liberty while their pens dripped with the ink of bondage. And when we dared to fight for the rights that others took for granted, we were met with bullets, batons, dogs, hoses, and prison bars. The so-called progress they tout today is nothing more than crumbs tossed to keep us quiet. They point to civil rights bills and black faces in high places as evidence of equality, while our communities continue to suffer under the same structures dressed in new language. Slavery evolved into segregation, segregation evolved into mass incarceration, and mass incarceration into economic strangulation. This system is not broken, it was built this way. Look at our schools, underfunded, overcrowded, and ignored. While white suburbs enjoy clean facilities and new textbooks, our children are taught to accept less, to dream smaller, to stay in line. Look at our neighborhoods, over-policed, underserved, redlined, poisoned with neglect. Look at our health care, hospitals that close their doors in black communities, doctors who don't hear our pain, systems that deny us dignity. Look at our voting rights, suppressed through ID laws, purges, gerrymandering, and closed polling stations. They want to act like the past is over, like the chains have been broken, but those chains were just traded for policies and procedures, for codes and handbooks, for bureaucracy and blind justice that only sees white. And justice. There is no justice when black bodies lie in the street and the killers wear badges and walk free. There is no justice when prisons become plantations and we are the crop. There is no justice when juries are stacked, when sentences are rigged, when laws are written to protect power instead of people. They tell us to wait, to be patient, to trust the system. But how can we trust a system that was never meant for us in the first place? Our ancestors begged for freedom. They cried for it, died for it, bled for it, and still we are told that we should be grateful for the little we've been given. They want us to celebrate freedom while they steal our futures. They want us to pledge allegiance while they desecrate our communities. They want us to forgive what they have never even acknowledged. But memory doesn't forget. It lingers, it festers, it burns. This rejection isn't about rage, it's about truth. And the truth is that America has never treated black people as full human beings. We were property, then we were problems, and now we are statistics. They fear our voice, fear our unity, fear our pride, because it reminds them of the lie they keep telling themselves, that this nation is that this nation is fair, that this nation is moral. But a country that lynched men for whistling, that sterilized women without consent, that experimented on black bodies without their knowledge, that flooded our streets with drugs and then criminalized our pain. Such a country cannot claim to be moral. We are expected to rise above hate while we are hated. We are expected to love a nation that has never loved us back. We are told to salute the flag that waved over our oppression. But patriotism without accountability is just propaganda, and forgiveness without justice is submission. They teach us about founding fathers while erasing the stories of the mothers and fathers who were whipped in fields, drowned in ships, raped in cabins, and sold like cattle. They fill the textbooks with half-truths and feed our children the poison of invisibility. They want us to assimilate into a culture that still sees us as alien, to succeed in a system designed for our failure. This rejection is not a call for division. It is a refusal to pretend. A refusal to pretend that the crimes of the past are over when their consequences are still alive. A refusal to pretend that the American dream applies to us when the American reality is a nightmare. A refusal to pretend that opportunity is equal when the playing field has always been rigged. There is no healing without honesty, and America has never been honest with us. It has lied to our faces, denied our experiences, and criminalized our truth. It has demanded our loyalty while offering us betrayal. It has asked for our silence while feeding on our struggle. It has profited from our culture while dismissing our humanity. So, no, this is not just a political stance, not just a critique of policy. It is a declaration born of pain, of history, of knowing. Knowing what they've done and what they continue to do. Knowing that every inch of progress we've made has come not from their benevolence, but from our resistance. America loves illusions. It thrives on performance, on spectacle, on dressing up the rot so it smells like roses. It speaks the language of liberty and equality while practicing the politics of exclusion and oppression. It teaches us to believe in justice, to trust the system, to hold tight to hope, even as it denies that same justice to the very people who need it most. The illusion is not just in what it says, but in what it hides, in what it refuses to see, what it refuses to name. And when we dare to break that illusion, to name the hypocrisy, we are branded as angry, ungrateful, un-American. America does not fear violence as much as it fears truth. It is not shaken by corruption, it is shaken by exposure. That's why truth tellers are demonized and distractions are amplified. Every time the oppressed cry out, America responds with comfort. Comfort not for the wounded, but for the comfortable. It turns the cameras toward looters while ignoring the looting of lives, land, and legacy that built its empire. It speaks of order and peace while ignoring the chaos it has sown in black communities through poverty, police, and policies. It promises change, but delivers delay. It has mastered the art of selling symbols in place of substance. A black president becomes the proof of progress, while black bodies continue to drop in the streets. A handful of CEOs of color become the sign of inclusion, while whole neighborhoods are left jobless, homeless, and hopeless. America wraps its racism in red, white, and blue. It baptizes injustice with slogans and ceremonies. It parades the face of change without touching the heart of the problem. It tells the world it is the land of the free while building the largest prison population on earth. It tells the poor to work harder while it hoards wealth at the top. It tells black people to move on from slavery while it continues to profit from systems designed during slavery. Equality in America is conditional. You can have rights, but only if you behave. Only if you are quiet. Only if you make those in power comfortable. Only if you smile while they step on your back. The moment you resist, the illusion shatters, and so does their tolerance. They do not want freedom fighters, they want mascots, they want symbols of success to parade around so they can point to you and say, see, the system works. But the system does not work. It works on us. It uses us. It extracts from us. It consumes our culture and our labor and our genius, then casts us aside when we are no longer convenient. It is no accident that the truth is silenced. The truth is dangerous to those who depend on the lie. So instead of confronting it, they dress it up. They market it. They turn our pain into a product, our resistance into a brand. They sell black struggle on T-shirts and Instagram posts while refusing to change the structures that caused it. They co-opt the language of revolution to make profits while black children still go hungry. They write diversity statements while ignoring the actual demands of the people they claim to support. America does not want to be equal. It wants to appear equal. It does not want to be just. It wants to look just. That is why it celebrates sanitized versions of our heroes and erases the parts of them that made white people uncomfortable. That's why the stories of resistance are flattened into fairy tales, stripped of context and urgency. That's why the calls for real justice are replaced with calls for calm. Because calm maintains the illusion. Peace without justice keeps the mask in place. As long as the surface is smooth, they don't care what festers underneath. The myth of meritocracy is one of America's most cherished illusions. The idea that if you work hard enough, you can make it. But what happens when the doors are locked, when the path is blocked, when the rules are written to ensure your failure? What happens when generational wealth and access and privilege are treated like merit, and struggle is treated like laziness? The playing field is not just uneven, it is rigged. And when we call that out, We are told we are making excuses. They call it a level playing field while standing on platforms we built, using ladders we were never allowed to climb. America loves the story of the self-made man, but it hates the truth of the system made underclass. It uplifts the rare exceptions as proof while ignoring the brutal rule. It gives awards for representation and then locks out the masses. It wants color in its advertisements, not in its boardrooms. It wants rhythm in its music, not in its leadership. It wants black culture without black people. It wants our beauty, but not our burdens, our strength, but not our scars. It wants the shine without the struggle. When black voices speak truth to power, the media spins it. The message is diluted, the anger is repackaged, the demands are reframed. We are told to be patient, to be peaceful, to wait for change, as if we have not already waited for centuries. They treat urgency as a threat and justice as a negotiation. They want to debate whether we deserve what should have never been denied. This is how the illusion survives, through distraction, distortion, and delay. Through turning protest into parades, pain into politics, and revolution into ratings. They invite us to the table, but never let us eat. They want us in the room, but not in control. They want our presence, but not our power. They want us to smile through injustice, to perform resilience without ever demanding repair. The most dangerous thing you can do in America is tell the truth about America. Because once the illusion breaks, so does their control. Once the curtain is pulled back, they can no longer hide behind their narratives. Once the oppressed begin to speak in their own voice, unfiltered and unapologetic, the myth starts to crumble. That is why they resist not just our demands, but our very existence as truth tellers. When I say I reject America, let me be clear, I am not talking about the people who sweat through 12-hour shifts to feed their families, or the students drowning in debt just to buy a chance at survival. I am not talking about the single mother with 2 jobs and no insurance, or the working class man who's been lied to just as much as I have, only in a different accent and a different color. My rejection is not aimed at those struggling under the boot. It is aimed at the boot itself. It is not the neighbor or the coworker or the fellow citizen who stands in my crosshairs. It is the system that pits us against each other, the machine that profits from our division, the structure that feeds on our fear. Too often we are told that unity means silence, that to reject the nation's broken foundation is to turn our backs on our fellow citizens. But true unity does not come from pretending everything is fine. It does not come from painting over the cracks or singing louder when the building is collapsing. Unity comes from truth. It comes from naming the cause of the fire, not just huddling together for warmth while it burns. And the cause is not the people. It is the system. It is the design. I do not reject the poor white farmer in Appalachia who's been abandoned by the very politicians he votes for. I do not reject the immigrant who crossed deserts and oceans looking for a better life. I do not reject the child born in a trailer or the elder living on Social Security scraps. I reject the system that keeps them desperate, that keeps them pointing fingers at each other instead of looking up. I reject the politics of distraction that tells a poor man to blame someone with darker skin rather than the bank that foreclosed on his home. I reject the corporate media that spins our pain into entertainment and our struggles into statistics. I reject the myth that some of us are the problem while others are the solution when we're all trying to survive under the same storm. When I speak out against America, I am speaking out against its systems of control, its laws, its institutions, its history of using race and class as tools of oppression. I am not speaking against the humanity of those caught in that web, because just as black people have been chained, silenced, exploited, and criminalized, so too have many others suffered under the weight of this machine. But to suffer is not the same as to be targeted. And to reject the system that harms us all is not to reject each other. It is to call for a revolution of consciousness that sees the real enemy for what it is. The lie that keeps this system alive is the one that says we're enemies. That if I speak up about black liberation, I must be against everyone else. That if I demand justice for my people, I must want injustice for yours. That is the logic of the oppressor. That is the logic of divide and conquer. That is how this system survives, by convincing us that our liberation is in conflict, that our pain is a competition, that we must step on each other to climb out of the hole they put us in. I reject that lie. I reject the system that teaches it. I reject the manipulation that makes one man hate another over scraps while the rich dine in peace. We do not live in a country where power is evenly distributed. We live in a country where a small group makes the rules, hoards the resources, and manufactures consent. They write the textbooks, they fund the news channels, they lobby the politicians, they shape the laws, and they build the prisons. And then they tell us it's our fault we can't breathe under their weight. I reject that narrative. I reject the morality of a country that says success is individual but failure is collective. I reject a structure that tells me to prove my worth while it robs me of the tools to build it. I reject a system that teaches me to beg for a seat at the table instead of asking why the table is set only for the powerful. And yet, I am told that rejecting the system means I am ungrateful, that I am anti-American, that I am spreading hate. But the hate has always come from the top. The hate was in the shackles, in the lashes, in the laws that said I was 3/5 of a human being. The hate was in the red lines, in the segregated schools, in the burning crosses, and the crooked judges. The hate is in the prison beds built based on third-grade reading scores. It is in the policies that feed the military while starving the schools. It is in the quiet deaths that go unnoticed every day, deaths of potential, of opportunity, of hope. I do not direct my anger at those who are just trying to live. I direct it at the architects of this misery, at the ones who make decisions behind closed doors, the ones who have never had to worry about eviction or hunger or a knock on the door from the police, at the ones who create policies they will never suffer under, who invest in prisons instead of people, who send thoughts and prayers while the bullets keep flying. I reject their America, their version, their vision, their empire built on exploitation. My rejection is a moral one. It is a spiritual one. It is not about vengeance. It is about clarity. I do not seek to destroy for the sake of destruction. I seek to dismantle what has been killing us slowly for generations. I seek to expose what has been covered in patriotic myths and nationalistic rituals. I seek to separate the people from the poison, to make clear that the suffering is not natural. It is designed. And if it is designed, it can be dismantled. That is why I speak. That is why I refuse to participate in the lie. Because the system depends on our silence, on our confusion, on our mistrust of each other. It depends on making us believe that we are each other's problem, when the truth is that we are each other's possibility. But that possibility will never be realized until the system that feeds on our division is stripped of its power, its legitimacy, and its illusions. Loyalty is not about singing songs or pledging allegiance. It is not about standing for an anthem that was never written with us in mind. It is not about waving a flag that flew over our ancestors' chains, that was stitched in the blood of slaves and lifted over battlefields where freedom was a lie, whispered to one side and a curse spat at the other. Loyalty is not about the symbols they wrap themselves in to hide the crimes they refuse to confess. Real loyalty is to the truth, to the struggle, to the people who have borne the brunt of a nation's betrayal and still manage to rise, to speak, to fight. I owe no loyalty to a system that calls itself just while filling graves with the bodies of the innocent. I owe no allegiance to institutions that profit off our misery, that wear suits while they pass laws that lock up children, evict families, and strip us of our dignity. My loyalty is not with the powerful, not with the politicians who smile while signing our death sentences, not with the judges who call themselves honorable while delivering injustice with a gavel and a straight face. My loyalty is not with those who confuse order with peace, silence with unity, submission with patriotism. My loyalty lies with the mother forced to bury her child before he ever had a chance to live, with the father who worked his hands to the bone and still couldn't keep the lights on, with the teenager who had his dreams choked out by the sirens and the steel bars of a prison built for profit, not protection, with the grandmother who cast her first vote and her last breath in the same year, still waiting for the country she was promised, with the people whose voices are dismissed, whose lives are discarded, whose pain is ignored until it becomes too loud to deny. America wants our loyalty while offering nothing but betrayal. It wants our bodies for its wars, our taxes for its coffers, our labor for its industries, our culture for its entertainment, but never our voices, never our control, never our freedom. It wants us to serve it while it refuses to serve us. And when we refuse, when we say no more, when we demand more than crumbs, we are labeled traitors, radicals, threats. But the real threat is a nation that demands obedience without offering justice, that expects gratitude while delivering punishment, that tells the oppressed to be patient while it celebrates its own false victories. The lie they tell is that loyalty must be blind, that to love your country is to ignore its crimes, to accept its flaws without question. But I do not believe in blind loyalty. I believe in conscious resistance. I believe in standing with the oppressed, even when it makes the comfortable uneasy. I believe in speaking the truth, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is dangerous. Because real love does not lie. Real love confronts. It demands better. It refuses to settle. And the love I have is for my people, not for the empire that seeks to erase us. I am loyal to the ones who keep resisting, even when the odds are stacked against them. To the organizers who march in the rain, in the cold, in the face of armed forces meant to silence them. To the teachers who speak the truth in classrooms that try to ban it. To the artists who paint our pain and joy on walls they never asked permission to touch. To the elders who remember the battles we're told to forget. To the youth who carry our future on their backs while being told they are the problem. To the ones who choose to hope, not because the system gives them reason to, but because hope is an act of rebellion in a world built to crush it. This country has never been loyal to us. It has never held our pain with care, never answered our cries with compassion, never treated our lives with the same value it gives to its profits, its power, its prestige. Yet still, we have been loyal to each other. We have built networks of survival out of nothing. We have raised generations in the shadows and still taught them to shine. We have made music out of mourning, strength out of sorrow, resistance out of rejection. We have given this country our best while it gave us its worst, and still we rise, still we fight. But that loyalty must no longer be misplaced. It must no longer be offered to the institutions that have proven again and again that they are not worthy of our trust. We must shift our loyalty back to ourselves, to our communities, to the work of liberation that does not wait for permission and does not settle for less. We must stand with those who are not recognized by the system, who are not protected by it, who are not enriched by it. We must link arms with the forgotten, the exploited, the silenced, because they are the beating heart of any revolution worth fighting for. We are taught that patriotism is about pride, but I say patriotism without accountability is hypocrisy. It is easy to be proud when you are protected. It is easy to wave the flag when it waves for you. But what about when it does not? What about when that flag is a reminder of lynchings, of raids, of land theft, of genocide, of promises broken again and again? I do not hate symbols. I hate what has been done in their name. I do not reject the people. I reject the power that abuses them, divides them, uses them. Because that power is afraid of what we might become if we ever turned our loyalty inward, if we ever stopped serving systems that do not serve us, if we ever recognized that our survival is not tied to the success of a nation built on our suffering, but to each other, to our collective power, to our ability to dream beyond the limits they place on us. Loyalty must be earned, and this nation has not earned mine. Not with its policies, not with its prisons, not with its propaganda. But my loyalty remains unshaken for those who stand with the truth, for those who organize, educate, resist, and rebuild. It is with them that my future lies. It is with them that the real meaning of loyalty lies.